Welcome to Beyond the Competition, the SAE University Programs Podcast.
All right. Welcome to the Empowering Women in Mobility discussion panel. My name is Amber Moons, and I am currently serving as the volunteer coordinator for the South Carolina competition. I have been part of Baja since I was in college in 2014, 15. And then I've been a design judge and then a event organizer since. So if you guys can go down the line and introduce yourselves and then maybe just give some background as to what role you are within automotive or mobility in general, that would be great.
I guess I'll go first. Hi, I'm Amy Chambers. My background is I have a bachelor's in mechanical engineering from the Cooper Union, which is a super small school in Manhattan. And then I went to work at GM for 6 years, where I mainly was doing like dyno support, engine dynos, chassis dynos, full vehicle testing as for noise and vibration for the CA Corvette. And then I went and got my MBA at Harvard Business School. And then I recently joined GM PPU, Performance Power Units, who's working on the power unit for the Cadillac F1 team. You should check them out. They're in the sponsor tent, and we're hiring a lot of people.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay, good afternoon. First of all, it's great to be here today with all of you. I will tell you, this is my first Baja. My first Baja, and it has been great. Okay, my name is Alba Colón. I work at Hendrick Motorsports, the NASCAR Cup team. I am the Director of Technical Partnerships and Team Operations Center at Hendrick Motorsports. The next week is my 31st year in the sport. I started... Oh boy. I started in General Motors my first 23 years. I did, you name it, data acquisition. I did a drag racing, INSA. I did IndyCar. I did NASCAR trucks, Cups for 23 years. And after that, I have been at Hendrick Motorsports for the last 8, working on tire simulation, technical partnerships, technical recruiting, the team operations centers. Bottom line, that is your command center, your NASA command center that is supporting, technically speaking, with data, our race teams during the whole weekend, and many other things that we're doing at the company. My involvement with SAE, right now I am in the board of directors of SAE International as your vice president of the auto sector. So part of what we are doing, these competitions are part of that group, and I'm very proud of everything that we're doing on all these events. My main thing, I started SAE when I was in college. I founded, and I was the first team captain of my first Formula SAE team at the University of Puerto Rico, and I have been pretty much at every Formula SAE event in the United States since 1991. I know that none of you were alive pretty much, but at that time, I am also served as a judge the event, Formula SAE events. And it's true that it's my first Baja event in person, but for the last 5-6 years, I've been supporting the Baja presentation event, the one that is virtual before you come here and do the final event. It's great to be with this amazing woman. I have worked with Lindsay for many years, and I feel, we're all pretty much of the GM family in some way. So it's great to be here, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you and to learn more from all of you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Molly Oxner. I have a degree in mechanical engineering from Kettering University, who I think is here this weekend. I started my career at General Motors as a power electronics development and validation engineer. So if you've ever driven or seen a Chevy Bolt on the road, flip that hood up. There's 4 boxes. I worked on testing those and actually got to launch the program in 2016, which was really, really cool. And I also got to support the autonomous taxi work on that car for Cruise, as well as the Bolt EUV, which is the bigger version. And then from there, I moved over to be a product development lead, developing next generation clutches for hybrid and EV vehicles at GM. And then actually, I left General Motors a couple years ago to pursue my passion in motorsports, where I went to McLaren Applied to support the NASCAR Cup Series and the NDT IndyCar Series, working track support, doing the ECU, which is the brain of the race car, doing controls and track support for both of those series. And this is my first Baja as well, and I'm actually very excited. I didn't have the opportunity to get involved in SAE when I was at school. I kept a very busy schedule between sorority and working on campus, and then my class load. And so I'm super excited to have been able to get involved now that I'm out in the industry and kind of help continue the excitement in and around SAE. Oh, and I also create content. I think that's on here. I am the friend with an engineering degree who likes to talk about race cars, and so I decided to start recording conversations I was having about motorsports with my friends and sharing them out there, and that has led to a podcast as well as a platform just kind of like, hey, why does the car look like that? What broke on the car this weekend? Well, what does that mean? I don't know what a drive shaft is. Can you explain that? Why is it so important? So I also do that on the side as kind of a fun little hobby that has kind of gone hand in hand with my passion and wanting to work in motorsports.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Kerbal. Unlike Alba, I am celebrating my first year in motorsports, and it has been great. I started at GM, and now I work with Amy at GM Power. Dang it, I always say it wrong. Performance Power Units. I started my career working on semi trucks, driving around the country in trucks. So that was very interesting and fun. And I moved on to locomotive engines, and then went back to school because I decided, I saw the people writing the control algorithms and thought that was very fun. So at school, they talked me into staying. They talked me into staying for a PhD. So I finished my PhD, and then I luckily got called by somebody in motorsports, and I said yes. So it's great, and I love it. And just wanting to let you know, like, the past's never quite as what you think it is, but just keep trying.
Can confirm.
Can't confirm.
All right. So I have some extra questions I can ask as fillers, but I think it would be great to open up the questions to all of you for any questions you may have for each of these ladies. I can also answer them, but I'd prefer if you guys answered them more so. But does anybody have any questions that you'd like to ask? It'll be a free for all. So go ahead. So I'm going to repeat the question just so everybody heard it. So when you chose your career in mobility, correct? Are you at the point in your path that you thought you were going to be, or is it what you expected? Anybody can answer.
I guess I'll go first. I also didn't include that I did Formula SAE all 4 years, and I did electronics lead and then engine lead and then powertrain lead, as well as the business presentation. Forgot all of that. I kind of blacked out during my introduction. I apologize. So when I went over to GM and I was working on their engine dynos for engine validation, it was shockingly similar. Like, I was used to running my own dyno and being there, kind of boots on the ground, running the test, assessing the results and everything like that. I think a big theme of the panel is going to be like, shit doesn't go normal. And like, it's okay to try things out. It's okay to like do a new role and try it out. And like, it's okay if it's not what you expect. And it's okay if it's not what you expected and that's not good for you. And it's okay if that's not what you expected and it is good for you. I think the core thing is if it's not good for you, then go do something else. But I've never regretted trying, even when I accidentally got an MBA, went into consulting for 6 months and quit. Don't regret it.
Yeah, I would agree. My program at Kettering, we had to do a co-op every 11 weeks. You worked an engineering role, and then you went back to school for 11 weeks and rotated on and off. So I luckily was well prepared and had a little bit of an idea of what I was getting myself into. But for context, I didn't think engineering was going to be my path. I was going to go to school for music. My parents said I had to go to school for something. I liked playing clarinet and said, let's do that. And then had this aha moment with a presentation at my school. And I said, I want to do that. I don't know what that is. And it turns out it's an engineer to work on EVs. And so I kind of didn't know going in. And I was very fortunate for my program at Kettering kind of preparing me for what to expect in the industry. But I think even once I was in industry, there was still a lot of aspects that I maybe didn't expect came with my role, or, I didn't know that that's how that worked. And I honestly agree with Amy. That's like, if it's not what I expected, that's okay. Kind of, I was adjusting, wanted to learn, and just kind of said, okay, is this for me? Is this not for me? If it's not what I expected, do I need to be able to handle that? Is that something that comes with the job, and can I be okay with that? And it's okay to try it out and say, you know what, it wasn't good for me, and move on, or like adjust and whatnot. But I think I was relatively well prepared, but still at the same time was like, I didn't realize that that's how that worked. But I think where I'm at now, especially motorsports, I was pretty well aware of what it was. It was what I expected, the long hours, the travel, kind of what goes on in it. I think the road car side was more I didn't expect.
Let me tell you one thing. At 9 years old, I knew I wanted to be a mechanical engineer. but it was because I wanted to go to NASA. The cars were not in the picture never. I grew up in Puerto Rico, so the car culture is not really like it's here in the States. And that was why I decided to become a mechanical engineer and so on. Suddenly, I was a member of SAE, but again, SAE was a magazine for me because they were really, the only SAE chapter were the 3 people that were in the student chapter. I think that we were the only members of SAE in the whole island. But I read something about, about the competition, and voila, there we started. And I decided, you know what? They gave me an opportunity at General Motors to work in racing, and I was going to do it for only 1 year. And I think that 31 years later, it's a little bit different. No, so this is not what I was going to do. This is not what I was going to do, but it happened. I never thought that I was going to leave General Motors neither. But one day, the owner of the team called. I said no, by the way. And the next day, I was like, I just told the best team in NASCAR, no, there's no good reason. So they called back, and I said, okay, I think that's a yes, that I need to say yes now. What I'm trying to tell you is that you can think that it's going to be like this, but 99% doesn't work like that. Doesn't work like that. And, I see Damon here, and I told him that one of the words that I have applied a lot on everything that we do, and today the word has been adaptability. Let me tell you that everything is not going to be like you are planning most of the time, but you have to adapt and work hard on that next direction, and so on. Am I in the point of my career that I want to be? No, I have 100 more things to do. And I have to keep going. I have to keep going to do them. But I will tell you one thing. You have to continue studying, and perhaps try to get to where you want to be. But trust me, the road is not like this. It goes like this, like the Baja course that you're going to see on Sunday. But you have to adapt. You have to, you have to change. Your dreams change, and that's okay. That's okay. Did that answer your question? That's why you were looking? Okay.
Would you like to answer? You're good? All right.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Alba, that's for me. I was like, my dream is to work on EVs for General Motors, and I got there and was like, I think it was actually race cars, and I made the jump, and I pivoted. I was like, this is really cool, and I love this, and this is what got me excited about working on cars and working in mobility. But I was like, you know what? It's not where my heart's at, and that's totally okay. And that's what caused me to pivot.
I get to work on a Baja and a Formula SAE every single day, but steroids, So it's a pretty neat job.
So the question is, some of us were in leadership roles while we were on the team, or potentially in leadership roles in industry today. And what advice would we potentially give to them? So I can give a small tidbit. So I was our treasurer, and then I was also a design lead. And I think one of the biggest things that you can do is put yourself out there, but it's very vulnerable and it's very scary, regardless of gender. But I think the biggest thing that you can gain is by trying and putting yourself out there to expose yourself to the opportunity to learn and to grow and to see, is it something that interests you, or is it something that, hey, this isn't really what I want to do? But if you're not going to give yourself the opportunity to take that chance, I think you're missing out on the opportunities that come, years and years down the road. Like you've heard Alba talk about her path and whatnot. And had you said no to your current role, you would have missed out on how many other things. So I think saying yes and making sure you give yourself that opportunity to try is important.
I agree, Amber, 100%. I will tell you one thing also. Your team not all think like you. And a good leader needs to recognize the way that everybody communicates and what makes them tick. Do not expect that your whole team is going to be like you. People react in different ways, but I believe that everybody has something that makes them amazing and that can contribute to the team. I think that it's very important to recognize what is that and to learn how to communicate with them. We don't have to go too much to this, but I have in my name tag, there's a color and there's a line. The reason is when I see other people at my workplace with the color and the line, in 1 or 2 seconds, my mind has to switch to recognize, oh, that's the way that they think. And my best way to get the best out of them is to communicate in the way that they work. So what I'm saying is spend some time with your team trying to figure out what is the best way for them to communicate and get the best out of them. And I think that many leaders fail that. I really believe that a leader, the main key is to be what we call a servant leader. At the end of the day, your main job is to provide the tools for your team to succeed. And that's an art. So if you can work on that, trust me, you will be a great leader.
I love this point. That was actually one of the 2 points I wanted to make was similar, but that the biggest thing any team member wants is to be heard. And as a leader, if you focus on that, you are a people leader. Like, I don't care if you have a technical role on that team, you are a people leader, and that means your one job is to listen to your people. I don't care if it's a dumb idea. I don't care if they're being unreasonable. I don't care if they're screaming. They probably shouldn't scream, but I don't care if they're screaming. You need to listen to them. They want to be heard. And if they're screaming, it's because they're passionate, probably. And then the other point I wanted to make is, for me, leadership is about authenticity. You can pick and choose role models. You can emulate as much as you want. But if you're not being your authentic self, it's going to be that it lacks credibility.
I would say one thing towards becoming a leader. I wasn't in the Baja, but becoming a leader, I know being a female, and there's not very many of us out there, to just be confident and stand up for yourself and give answers. And don't wait for somebody else to, make the decision, right? Just be confident in your choices. You guys are just as smart as everyone else out there.
So the question was, all of us, it seems, have very good roles that we had, and some of us made pivots. What was the motivator? And then what allowed you to do that? And then what advice would we give for these young ladies and gentlemen of how to go about that in the future?
I think a lot of it has to do with what we talked about earlier. It's how you never know what to expect. It's not going to be what you expect ever. And so it's really just, doing your best and trying to find what place that you fit in and makes you happiest. So every pivot I made was because something just wasn't quite right. So then it was like, okay, well, let's try a different company. And that was great until it wasn't. And then it was, okay, I own my own business for a while. I love that. That was great until it wasn't. And then I went back to school. And so it's just kind of being open to new ideas all the time, always being aware of what's around you. I would say always looking for jobs, just to be open and see what your next opportunity coming along actually is.
Yeah, I think for me, which I kind of alluded to, I was like, this is really cool, but it's not what makes me really excited and happy in industry. And it's like, yeah, I'm really passionate about all of this, but it's like, at the end of the day, I'm kind of bored. And I was like, this is cool, but I'm bored. And so for me, that's kind of what I pivoted towards. It was my motivator. It was like, this is awesome. I'm just kind of like, I kind of was starting to dread going to work. I was really burnt out and everything. And so I was like, I think getting into what would really make me happy would help. And so for me, the biggest thing that helped was, we talked about this a little bit, putting ourselves out there. I was so many people's problem and a nuisance, and talking to managers and building a network to try and see, hey, what skills am I lacking, or what do I need that make me a candidate to come over to motorsports, or what are you looking for that I don't have yet? And then building myself a development plan, either within new roles at GM or like externally developing and things like that, like taking classes to help me get there further. Like one right now is I'm teaching myself Python because I know that the industry is going towards Python away from MATLAB, that I've been just kind of teaching myself to say like, hey, I have these skills, but it was like, what do I need to be a candidate to come over here? Because I have all of this passion, all of this knowledge. Like you can see, I have this living resume of a podcast and content that like, I know my stuff, but if you look at me on paper, I may not stand out. And so kind of building this really robust network and just kind of not being afraid to reach out to somebody in cold call and say, hey, I saw you posted this job. I'm actually just really curious about the role. I want to know more about the day-to-day, what kind of skills you look for, and started to build a network that way. And I think my network is what really helped me and really kind of helped me make my jump, because I had a friend connect me to the role at McLaren Applied and talked to the manager that way about the role, and then wound up applying and obviously accepting it. And so for me, I think not being afraid to just reach out, even if it's just like, hey, can we have some coffee to chat? Or, hey, I want to do this. Would you be willing to talk to me? 99.99999% of the time, they're going to say yes. You will never be turned down for a conversation like that. And not being afraid to have that conversation, I think, really helped me make my pivot and make my jump and help get me over to the motorsport side.
That's a good point. Absolutely. So I have to. I don't have a sweet, nice story like them. Okay, I will be very straightforward. Formula SAE got me my job at GM. I will be honest with you. They called me and they said, yes, I had a job at GM. The first thing that happened was like, oh my goodness, I had to move to another country. Life was fantastic in Puerto Rico. But I said, you know what? I have to do it. I have to do it. I have to do it. And they only asked me for 1 year. And like I said, many years later, I'm here. I was very comfortable at GM. I pretty much was succeeding on everything that I wanted at GM. And suddenly, I get the call, right, to go to Hendrick Motorsports. And why I said no? Because I was afraid. Because I was comfortable. And I do not like to admit it, but that was the truth. I was too comfortable. But at one moment, I remember that night going to bed, and I said one thing. I said, wow, the week before, I was talking to a group of younger women, and I told them about do not be afraid to dream, do not be afraid of change. And I was not applying my rule that night. I was like, everything that I was preaching, I was not doing. And I said, what do I have to lose? What else? You know, this team is inviting me to do something completely different, to leave my life behind in General Motors, and just go and do something else. And I just went and did it. But again, I just realized I have to do it. I have to try something new. Doesn't matter how much I love. And nothing. I resigned on a Friday. Sunday I drove. Whatever was in my car, I drove. And Monday I started. By the way, when I came from Puerto Rico, I flew on a Sunday. I stayed in a hotel room. And Monday I started with nothing. And got my apartment. I slept in the floor for 2 weeks until I finally got my first bed. And I made it happen, you know? And pretty much was the same story when I came to Hendrick. But I realized there's nothing, why am I so afraid of a change? There's nothing wrong with a change. Just go and make it happen, and you will work hard. And let me tell you, I have needed to work extremely hard to get to where I am. And sadly, I hate to admit it, but sadly, women have to work 2 or 3 times harder to get to the same job that many men have, okay? And you allies, like I call it, it's up to you to teach your daughters, and to help your daughters not to go through what we have gone to make this thing happen. But the bottom line is just not to be afraid and make the change. And look at all the wonderful opportunities that I have had. So it just has been about saying no. Go and make something happen. And who knows what are my next changes? It's just to be very open-minded.
Alba, I think you make a really good point where you were at GM for so many years. And when you take the opportunity for a change and you say yes to it, it's really scary. But it's one of those things that you had the opportunity to fail, I'm sure. If it wasn't your thing, because you probably didn't burn bridges at GM, and I'm sure they would have welcomed you back if you wanted to. But I don't know of any company that would take you leaving for a position that you want to try to become more passionate about something new or learn something new, and you leave on a good note. They would probably take you back because you were very successful, but you're taking the chance on yourself to learn and grow and become something different that you didn't ever think you had the opportunity to do.
Yes, and I will tell you, and I know that Mark knows this, but when I put my resignation letter at GM, the VP, it was like, okay, what happened? Did we do something wrong? They say no. HR called me and wanted to have a meeting. What happened? Did we do something wrong? And the head of HR and GM that works for Mary Barra called me to talk to me. For me, that was like a big deal. I said, did we do something wrong? I said, no, but Mr. Hendrick called. Did you say no to Mr. Hendrick? and I just, and they said, well, that's true. Okay, you can go. No, what I'm saying is, and I will tell you one thing, one of the coolest moments in that whole story. I think that the coolest part was when they asked me, hey, you had this job, and I said, oh my God, let me prepare my resume again. And they said, no, you are your resume. Yeah. I don't need to see in the paper what I have seen from you all these years. Mm-hmm. Do you have idea how cool is that somebody tells you, I don't need to see your paper? I already know what you do. That for me was a moment. And believe me, all of you can do that. Mm-hmm. That your job is your job every day is your resume. I think that for me was the coolest part of the whole deal.
Yeah, I was going to say I had a similar experience when I put my resignation in at GM. My manager said, "Can I ask where you're going?" And I just said it's a job in racing, and told her about the opportunity. And she looked at me and she said, I'm happy for you because I know that you want nothing more in this world. I hate to see you go, but I understand, and I'm extremely happy for you that you've got this. It's my mic. It's a similar thing. It was like, did we do something wrong or what? I was just like, when I told her that, and she was like, I get it, and it's you have to take the chance on yourself. And just like Alba said, I think it was a great point. Don't be afraid to.
Don't know if we're talking about the pivot there or the pivot back. I guess I'll hit both. So I was working at GM. I guess I was there for like probably 6 or 7 years. And I also left out that I have a master's in engineering management. So I had a master's in engineering management, and I was feeling stagnant at GM, and I always had this part of me after, I was also on business presentation in Formula SAE. I had this part of me that was like, I'm kind of interested in this side. Engineering has answers. Very easy, very simple. There's always an optimization point if you throw enough money and computing power at it. But business doesn't have answers. Everything's about trade-offs, and real, disgustingly real trade-offs. And that was like a lot of what led me to pursue my MBA. Plus I was like, damn, I got into Harvard. Okay, I got to go now. So I quit, and I moved to Boston from Detroit, and I dragged my husband to Boston from Detroit and dragged him to work remotely for 2 years. And then I joined consulting, which, if anybody knows anything about management consulting, getting into I worked at BCG. I went through hell to get that job. I went through something that everybody wants and studies for, and I studied hundreds of case interviews, and I worked my ass off because I thought I'm so sorry, I keep cursing. Be authentic. I worked so hard to get that job. And when I started it and I was so miserable, it felt like a failure. And coming back and doing what I love and realizing that none of that was a failure, I probably had the biggest pivot and then pivot back of this group. That hole felt really deep. Paying for an MBA is expensive. Losing 2 years of salary is expensive. Moving my husband away, having to pay back a signing bonus that was way too big. Felt deep and horrible and unsurmountable. And now that I'm on the other side, there was no other option than what I did. I had to try it. I don't regret trying it. I'm happy to be back. But I think the value of putting faith and trust in yourself to get after it, I think is very important. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
All right, who has another question? Right here.
Can you?
I want to be a NASCAR race engineer on Sundays with the crew chiefs. Do you have any advice for me as I try to work for that goal?
Did you get all that question, Alba?
Hendrick.com/about/careers. That's the first thing that I would say. No, okay, in a serious mode. We hire a lot from these programs. What you're doing is the right thing to do. To put it very clear, or you start with a smaller team to become a race engineer, or you start with us through many internships and to other jobs before you become a race engineer. But again, it's about understanding your vehicle, understanding data, understanding what others want. Vehicle dynamics is extremely important, but I would say data, vehicle dynamics. But there's not really a correct path, But I will tell you, many come from here. Many come from here. Yeah, we have hired many that started as interns, and now they are primary engineers and crew chiefs. But it took many hours to work. I will tell you one thing: a race engineer pretty much works 7 days a week for 38 weekends a year in NASCAR. So it's not only what you know, it's the stamina and the stamina that you need to have mentally and physically to make sure that this is what exactly you want. So you're on the right path. You just have to keep going, and please, many teams here, many companies that I see here, there's no exact way how to start. It's just, keep doing what you're doing. Okay.
All right. I think you had a question.
When you guys talk about comfortability and boredom, how do you know it's not just like a dull moment that you're having in your career that might last, one more month, and then you can probably pick up again later? How do you differentiate?
If you're saying one more month, you're too comfortable.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay, I will.
But yeah,
No. We all different. We're all different, And please, this is what I love, that we are different, that we are completely different. It's so funny. I used to have a manager that I used to say the job is not. He said, if it's not 70% fun, you should start to look for something else. And I asking the same question: how long how long is not fun? Okay, and you only know it's very personal. It's extremely personal. I will tell you one thing: in my line of work, like a month ago or 2 months ago, in the business where I am, we all get very frustrated. We are extremely frustrated, and we want to get out of here. But we know that this is going to pass. It's just the way that my business works. Right now, with 5 races to go, my excitement is back. But again, in your business, maybe it's 1 month. Maybe for you personally, it's 1 month. Mm-hmm. I have been in both sides, but I know that at the end, I am doing the job that I love. But let's be honest, to be 100% happy every day, it doesn't work for me. I don't know for you.
Oh, I was talking about boredom. So
Yeah.
like
No,
if
but
you're like, I'm
boredom,
bored
yeah.
and it's been a month and you're like, oh, I'll see if I'm bored in a month. If you're bored for over a month, that's a long time to be bored.
Again, how do you get out of the boredom? Are you looking for another thing? And a race team, if you don't like this, you can go and do another thing and learn about it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. My job is very different. It's very different. There are so many jobs that you can do. So it make sure that they are doing this great, but it does the next thing. You can go and do it at the same time. So it's different. But
I think a big thing with boredom in your current role that you might have is sometimes you might feel like you're stagnant in your role because you aren't being challenged. So I would take the advice of potentially reaching out to whoever your direct manager is and asking them if there's something that I could be doing that would challenge me more. So it just might be that you're at like a stall in your role because you're comfortable, your manager thinks you're fine. But if you have that desire to do more, or desire to try something different, don't be afraid to ask so that you have those opportunities. You might have a different opportunity within that company. It might be in your next role of like, you might be asking, how do I get from a general engineer up to like a senior engineer, right? Like from an incoming one, like what are those steps to do that? So I think a lot of the boredom comes from when you're not being challenged, but it also takes a step on your own self to step up and say, hey, like I am bored. I need something different. It might not be different because it's bad, but I need something different that's more challenging, or I have this idea that I want to go investigate this. Is this a project that you would approve? So take a little bit of that boredom upon yourself. And then, if those conversations happen and you're not getting those results that you're looking for, then maybe it is time to look for a different role elsewhere. But challenge within your current role that you're at to, give it a good shot before you just say, I'm completely done, like without taking the opportunity to ask.
Yeah, I was going to actually say something similar because that's a conversation I'd had quite a bit. I was like, hey, I feel like I've actually really mastered everything I can here. Is there something that I can work on to be even better? Like, you're telling me at my reviews, hey, I'm doing great. I'm meeting all the goals. I'm meeting expectations. And I'm like, what else could I be doing? Because, hey, this is where I see myself. This is what I want to do, to kind of see if there's anything I can take on and try to improve even more on or be challenged on. Because, like, a good example is I was a mechanical engineer. I was working on power electronics. I had no idea what I was doing for a little while there. And so I was learning that on the fly. So it was a little bit of like, hey, how can I be even better at electronics and power electronics? So electronics was not my favorite thing during my degree either. But it was one of those things where it's like I was like kind of asking those questions as well, and then having the awareness of myself to say, hey, I've been in this role for 6 months. I've been in this role for however long. Am I where I think I should be, or am I lacking somewhere, or do I want it more of a challenge? And having those conversations, that was the point I was going to make. And then for me, I kind of realized like, hey, this isn't what I wanted or what I expected anymore. When like there was like just this like moment, and I remember how I felt when I was really excited about getting into engineering. And I had to ask myself, I'm like, is this a tough period? Like Alba was saying, we're like, I just don't like this. It's tough. It sucks. Like, we're in the middle of an issue. Or is this really that it's not what I wanted, what I'm happy to do? And it was, I know how passionate I was when I found EVs and what brought me into engineering. And when I'm sitting there realizing that it's not fun for me, and fun is really important. I want to be having fun and enjoying, and it's just not fun and something that I'm so passionate about. I was like, okay, is it me? Is it the job? What is it? And kind of looking inward to understand what that boredom really was and why and where it came from, versus like, oh, this is just a really dull period. Because especially in, I would say, road cars, it's called feast or famine, I would say, where you're really, really busy in a launch cycle, and then you launch the product and it's great and it's calm, and you're like, oh, I'm so bored. This sucks. And then it picks back up again. And that is really truly like a vehicle development cycle, where like, even when the product starts, there's this big flurry of activity of, we have this new product, or we have a new platform we want to work on. We got to get staffed. We got to understand requirements. We got to do all this stuff. And then it like calms back down again for like 2-3 months as you go through the request for quote process, and you're trying to find people to do the different parts. And then you get somebody on board, and it is all hands on deck to get parts integrated, to do FEAs, and then it chills back out while you test. Maybe not always while you're testing, but it is a very cyclical industry at its base. And I think understanding that was a big part of it as well. Is like, am I bored because I'm in a cycle, or am I bored and unhappy because this really isn't fun anymore? You know, like kind of having that self-awareness is really important, I think, in understanding that. I hope that made sense.
Yeah, I completely agree with what Amber said. For me, learning is what makes my job fun. Obviously, I went to grad school for 6 years. So I think I'm always trying to reach out and find something new to do at work, or something new to learn. And when I feel like I've exhausted all my efforts is when I know it's time. I need to, either find a new job within the company, or pivot, or do something else. So I think you just have to figure out what keeps you going and try your hardest. And when you reach that point, then start looking, or just always be open to new opportunities. So
Lindsay reads textbooks.
they're fun.
All right. Any more questions? Yes.
How do you bounce back from like having doubts about yourself or your skill set or whatever? Because I know you guys had a very, not a linear path, I guess, to your position now. So I'm just kind of curious about that.
You can doubt your skill set, but don't doubt your person and your potential. Like, I never once thought that I couldn't get an internship at BCG, that I couldn't get a job, that I couldn't get an MBA, that I couldn't get into racing. It's just the matter of the logistics to get it done. So knowing that you have the potential and that you can put the hard work in, even if, listen, if I didn't doubt I doubt my skill set every single day. Like, I'm doing something I've never done almost every single day, but I know that I can learn it, and I know that I can grow, and I know that I can do it, even if I don't have that hard skill right now. So I would say that's the biggest thing. It's not, never doubt yourself, but understand where you can grow and where you can learn.
I think it sometimes takes practice too. So, it's easy for us, especially as women, to say, oh, I don't know that. I don't know that. We're not very good at being forward and saying, yes, I can do that. What gets me through the day is, as Amy said, even if I don't think I have the skill set, I probably do, but I know I can learn it. But it's also going back and reminding myself all the accomplishments I have made and the things I have done. And it's reminding myself on a daily basis that gets me through that self-doubt.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I've had a really hard time with imposter syndrome, not only in my time at GM, but at McLaren. And I was the first woman to ever work trackside for McLaren Applied in the United States, ever in motorsports. When I got my track kit, they were like, oh yeah, we've never done a woman's track kit. And I was like, oh, but as I was in that role and even at my time at GM, I'm like, what the heck am I doing? Why am I here? Like, I don't know that. Like, I don't understand that. And really, I was really struggling with the doubt in a lot of my roles. And it was a lot of that is just because I don't know it, it doesn't make me lesser than. And I shouldn't be afraid to speak up or ask questions or make my opinion known. And telling myself I wouldn't be here if I wasn't good enough. And I am good enough to be here, even if it doesn't feel like I am. And I'm feeling like, what am I doing? But it's reminding myself that just because I don't have a hard skill, I can learn that skill. Be always open to learning has always been one of those things. Just like, hey, I don't know that right now, but I will figure it out. And being willing to figure it out, being willing to learn, I think it's been a big thing as well to help with that doubt and be like, I can learn that. And then even with electronics, it was like they were just like, we know that you're the right person and you wouldn't be here if you wouldn't. We can teach electronics. And that I think was a big thing too, is just because I didn't have the hard skill, it doesn't make me not a good fit. And always being open to learning and telling myself I wouldn't be here if I wasn't good enough was a big thing. Or even just doubting myself was understanding that, like, you know what, actually it is like I wouldn't be here if I wasn't. You know, I don't know if I'm making a clear point, but
I think you are.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to steal a quote from my husband, who likes to say that having a degree in engineering isn't a degree in engineering, it's a degree in learning. Like you're yeah, right. He's very good at that. Like you're literally learning how to learn. Like you think they're going to give you like pipes to like do pressure fluids at work? No, that's to get you to like learn how to learn.
I suffer of imposter syndrome, and I don't think that I'm good enough in my job. And that keeps me going every day, trying to do better. But I don't think that I'm good enough. And unfortunately, everybody around me feels the same, that we are not good enough. But goodness, I think that 300 something wins, 318, 319. It has to get me out of that doubt. But it's really frustrating. It's good, but it's bad. But many of us in our company don't think that we're good enough. And I think that that's what keeps us going and finding how to be better and better and better and better and better. But I am being honest, okay?
It's a very good question. Anybody else?
Yeah, it sucks. It's hard. It is very hard.
Jonathan, right?
What's something you guys look for when you're hiring someone for an internship or an entry level position to, I guess, stand apart from the crowd?
So I've done many career fairs and job fairs for my company. So I'll be quite honest, one of the things that I look at when I see a resume is not necessarily any of the job background. I go to their experience. And if they have anything that says Baja SAE or Formula SAE, automatically I'm like, you get +5 points, because the events that I partook in it as well, but the hands-on skills that you have from these competitions and running these teams are huge. You're basically running your own little company, whether you believe it or not. Like, you're managing a budget, you're managing people, so you kind of have HR without an HR title. You're managing accommodations, you're building a car, you're procuring the material, and then you're going and racing and developing different presentations from the business side, the design side. So you're really doing all of the things in industry. So for me, one of the things that I always look for to stand out is that kind of experience. And then anything that you would have had, like hands-on activities, because the classroom is great, your GPA is great, but at the end of the day, if you can't apply it outside of that classroom, for me, that's what I've learned is the individuals that aren't necessarily as much of a good fit for at least my company. were really well suited to work alongside with me, since I'm a very hands-on person. And like with our test parts, for example, I'm in there breaking parts, playing with the grease, taking them apart, throwing parts around. So it's really, that's something that I look for.
Our company, we look for hungry, humble, and smart. So basically, people who are excited to learn, to do more things. It's not necessarily what your skills are, but are you willing and able to take on new things and learn?
I agree 100%. For us, it's a lot about the cultural behavior. I'm sorry, who asked? You asked, yes. It's about the cultural behavior. It's about, I can teach you, like you said, I can teach you the technical skills. I cannot teach you manners. I cannot teach you work ethic. I cannot teach you critical thinking, curiosity, adaptability. That's the word again. That's the word again. Yeah, that's the word of the day. And Damon knows what I'm talking about. That is what we are looking. And when we are here at the competition, at least I like to observe. And the team that is doing fantastic, that's easygoing. But the team that has a part that has broke, right? And is trying to fix it. Do I want somebody in the team that is yelling at others? Out. I don't want that person. Do I want the one that is doing nothing? Do I want the one that is trying to, to work, look for the details, trying to figure it out? Those are the ones that we want. And at the end, when we give you an internship, we want to know, once again, the ones that adapt, the ones that understand, hey, this is not part of your job, but today this is what we have to do because this is what the team needs. In our business, it's a lot about teamwork. Let me give you a quick example. I keep talking about the command center. We have many engineers, working on data. But imagine a team that their car gets crashed the first lap. And the first thing that you think is, oh, the engineers are leaving, right? No. You have to stay until the end of the race and to help all your other teammates. I cannot teach you that. You have it or you don't have it. That's what we are looking. And that's what we love to do, those internships, just to see if you have it. Because let me tell you, in 1 hour interview, you're going to do the best. You're going to, I said that this is for us, I call it, this is a dating game, right? Your first date, you're going to be the best. By the third, the fourth, the fifth is when you're starting to show. That's for us in an internship. We're going to be interviewing you every day, and figure out if you have what it takes. So,
yeah, it's been a minute since I've done recruiting, but I think the application is a big one. Is applicable skills and applicable experiences like this. This was always something that I know I looked for when I was recruiting, and was like, oh, they have some sort of application-based experience where book smarts is one thing, but being able to apply that is, I think, the bigger difference in how you apply it. So stuff like this for sure is the right thing, and I think it's the right. I don't know where I'm going with that, but yeah, I agree. I look for applicable hands-on because that was a big thing too. I found in my experience that people would tell me, they're like, "You're super smart, but it's how you apply that. You're like how you're applying what you learn." And I think that's what's really important to companies and to recruiters is that you can demonstrate that you've applied what you've learned hands-on, because it is very different. Like the book might tell you one thing, but actually doing it, totally another.
Great question.
For those that didn't hear what Lindsay just said to me, she said, "You're not reading textbooks."
Nerd. All right, we have time for a few more questions, Damon. Yeah? Okay. I'm ready for more questions, everybody. Yes.
I feel like a lot of you guys, like actually all of you guys, are very brave and like a lot of decisions you made in your life. I want like some advice for like how to build mindsets that allow you to be brave and making changes on your car or making changes in your life in general.
So number one, all of us are not college age students anymore. So I can tell you, I bet all 5 of us had a moment where we weren't brave. So it is a skill you have to develop for number one. But Molly?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I was very fortunate in that I was kind of raised with a you'll never know if you don't try mentality. And that was kind of like with foods growing up, my parents were always like, well, like, do you not like it or have you just not tried it? And like that was kind of how they raised me just in general. And I think that's really for me what contributed to me being kind of the way that I am, because I'm very much like, I don't know if I'm going to like that. Let's just go do it. Let's just go try it. And that's kind of carried with me all the way through my life. And I think that I'm very fortunate for that. And that's kind of how I approach a lot of things, is like, you know what, let's just go try it. Let's do it. And I think that that's really where my bravery comes from, and my ability to make the big jumps and do things that might be really scary is like, well, I'll never know. So let's do it.
I think one other point, and being a female, I think it's oftentimes hard to have that voice that speaks up and says something. And I think really honing into the fact that as females, we do think differently. We bring different perspectives, and we might think from this side of the box compared to the other side of the box. So I think making sure that you bring up and use your voice in a conversation, especially if it is with like all males, is really important, because you do bring different perspective. You bring different ideas. You bring different viewpoints on things, and what you have as an idea might be something that they've never thought of, and it might be the technical solution to it, a problem that you might be addressing. So just making sure that you are utilizing the space that you're given, because you're in that space because you deserve to be there.
And don't be afraid to take up space in that space.
Yes, definitely. I would say that bravery is really the resilience to being scared, and like understanding that being scared is not a bad thing. I also recommend the book Ask For It. It's about, I gave it to Lindsay. She loves it. She said she can't read more than one chapter at a time because it's too freaking her out, which means exactly that you should read it, because it's all about women and negotiation and taking up space and asking for it, and about training, getting rejection therapy. So like, I'm at the point where I was at a wine bar and they gave like little nuts, and I was like, can I buy this little bowl? And I bought the bowl. And guess what? I wouldn't have the bowl if I didn't ask for it. It was $12. I don't regret it. It's my favorite bowl. But like, it literally is like, start small. Start those stupid little things. So when the big thing comes up, you're like, well, I asked for a bowl, and then I asked to change my clothes in this dressing room, and I didn't buy any clothes. I just asked to change my clothes there, and they said yes. And you'd be shocked at what people will do if you ask. Thank you.
So I was going to say, it takes practice. So put yourself in those situations when it's easy, and that helps make it the next step a little bit easier. So
please practice for a week not saying apologies or sorry. Do you know that we women say sorry and apologies too much, including me, my friend? Sadly, some of my favorite words, somebody here that knows me extremely well. But do you know that women start many conversations and many, sorry, boss, but I was thinking if you have time, if I'm not bugging you, can you give me 5 minutes to discuss this? Do you think that a man asks that? No, I'm sorry. No, I say the word. No, you do not. No, but think about it. Think about it. We use the word sorry and apology too many times. Tomorrow, do not use the word. You know what? Challenging all of you, do not use the word sorry or apology tomorrow, unless you really have to apologize for the right reasons. But do not use it tomorrow, and let me know tomorrow at 6 p.m. to see how it feels. Because you know what? It's going to be extremely hard. Extremely hard. Do not use. Okay, tomorrow. We start tomorrow, not today. Because I said too many times today. No, but what I'm trying to tell you is we start by too many conversations in the same way. And you never hear a man, respectfully, my friends, you never hear a man saying that. We are conditioned. And I wanted to tell you one thing. I grew up in a culture where what I am doing is so wrong. So wrong. And how many times I am being told, when are you planning to be normal? Because this is not expected from a woman where I come from. I don't know if you feel like that or not, but that is how I grew up. And I think that when I earned to being brave was when I became a rebel. And a rebel was, you know what? They gave me a job in Michigan, I don't have any clue about what is called weather, correct English, or all of these things, but I am going to do it. But in the eyes of my family, I was a rebel. Because you are doing something that a lady is not supposed to do. But once again, I challenge all the females here tomorrow not to use the word sorry or apologies, and let me know at 5 p.m.
So you can check in with Alba at lunchtime at the tent that's right next to the food. And then you can come check in with her at 5. And then you can talk about how your day was and what differences that might have given you throughout the day.
Also, we're all going to do it too, especially Lindsay. Lindsay's going to do it harder than all of us.
Am I right? Am I right on that? Why we apologize for things that don't make any sense?
I think I start emails with sorry.
So I think a really good thing, Lindsay, you should change your emails and saying, instead of saying like maybe sorry for the delay, you tell them thank you for your patience, right? Because you need time.
I actually chat GPT that the other day.
I've had to learn to start using that instead of sorry. So, any more questions? That's a good one. Can I call somebody out to ask a question?
Yes.
Derek, your turn. I think you know some of these ladies. All right, what's your question?
I was not prepared for this, I'll be honest. I was thinking about it.
We didn't prepare for this either.
But you do better than me, see.
Okay.
Okay, you have 90 seconds. Jonathan.
What's been your favorite memory in your career?
This one time, I had to drive this. I was doing a noise and vibration test in the CA Corvette. We were going to go up to 140, and we were on the north-south straightaway, Milford Proving Grounds, and it was snowing a little bit, and I had my friend driving, and I was covered in all of this data acquisition equipment. It was like everywhere. And it was just like this really surreal moment of like, wait, this is my job. That's so weird. Very fun. Also, Lindsay prints me little 3D fidget toys, and they bring me a lot of joy.
I think for me, when I first transitioned into a hardware responsible role at GM, for me, it's not even the motorsports role, which is really funny to me. We were doing what's called an SLA build, and it's a 3D printed scale 1-to-1 of our entire transmission. And I was working on a brand new piece of clutch technology that GM had never done before. And they handed me the prints down in the build lab and said, hey, check this out. This is your part. And being able to physically see the representation of what I had been working on and holding in my hands, I was like, oh my God, this is real. This is amazing. It's going to go into customers' hands. And I actually cried. I was like, this is actually amazing to see. It didn't even function. It was 3D printed. Like the little thing didn't actuate or anything like that. You couldn't plug it in and the sensor didn't work. But it was like, oh my God, I did that. And this is like my child in my hands. And it was really surreal. And it was just like an amazing moment to see all of the hard work I'd been paying off and leading a team. It was my first time leading a team too of people under me with another release engineer, designers, my supplier, and it was like, hey guys, look, we did it. It fits, it builds. We have a real part that works, and it was I think that's super cool for me.
No, and in my racing career, I have been witness of a greatness. The 7 championships of Jimmy Johnson to be there, right? But I remember the little things that I remember. Dale Earnhardt Sr. screaming at me for something that I did in his car, and he asked me, "Are you trying to kill me?" You know. Because I committed a mistake. It was my first year doing a data acquisition. That was cool. I remember that with a lot of love now. Coach Joe Gibbs putting his chair backwards and telling me, let me tell you how business gets done at the track. I was scared to death. But at the same time, do you have idea how many people get the opportunity of Joe Gibbs telling them how business is going to get done? I love that moment. Tony Stewart giving me grief during 2011 when he won his championship. We had a ritual that we needed to follow that I'm not going to say what was, but we needed to follow during the whole championship. But I will tell you, and I know that sounds cheesy, I'm proudly to say that I have been married for 23 years with a man that understands my craziness and that thinks that what I do is cool, and he does not mind that I have to work 7 days a week. Because for me, that's the biggest accomplishment of my career, that somebody that I'm married to, it trusts that this is what, that doesn't mind my craziness. But, being here today, doing all these things, we are pretty blessed. We get to do all these fun things and come and talk to all of you and being paid to be here. That's cool.
Lindsay.
I don't know if I can follow that. One would be finishing my dissertation, just all that work and just the feeling of accomplishment. And two is just, our quirky little office. We're growing rapidly. Some days get frustrating, some days are hard, but sometimes I just stop and think, we are building a Formula One engine from scratch. So really just every day, that feeling and reminder is so amazing.
And also being my friend.
And when Amy started working with us too.
I would say for me, it hasn't been like this astronomical event, but when my company, we had some very high tension conversations with a customer at executive level, like daily conversations. I think like a really defining moment for me was when our COO, who's had over 40 years of manufacturing experience running equipment, installing plants, he installed like 6 of our 7 plants. When he skipped about 5 levels down and he came to my desk and asked me the questions because I knew the answers better than anybody else in our office to be able to answer them to our customers. So for me, I think it was really cool that someone that high up in our company saw me for the value that I brought and the skill set that I had and took a chance to come talk to me because verbatim he said, because I knew you knew the answers better than anybody else. So that was really cool for me. All right, Derek, you've had more than 90 seconds for your question. He'll be okay.
If you had to distill down all the advice that you've been given over your career, what's the biggest one that stood out to you and why?
The biggest one that
What is out of all of the advice you've been given over your career, what is the biggest single piece of advice that's taken you on, right? Taking you to the next level?
I actually I'm right on this. Sometimes to be fast, you have to go slow. And that has stuck with me. Somebody told me that as an intern. And that has stuck with me throughout my entire career because I was like, oh my gosh, the line is down. We have to get the line back up, and kind of panicked and in a flurry. And he's like, no, like you're going to have to redo that like 4 times. And I was like, but the line's back up. It doesn't matter. We're back up and running because in manufacturing, time is money. And since I started my career in manufacturing, and he said to me, sometimes you have to go slow to go fast. And by just stopping, even for a second, and saying, okay, this is what I need to do, this is the problem, and assess, it's much faster than just going. And I think it's carried all the way through my career. And even in racing, sometimes to be fast on track, I have to slow down. And I have to kind of take a step back and look at it at a macro level, bigger picture, look at the whole system, look outside of just the box of what I'm working on to be that much faster in what I do or that much better at what I'm doing in my role. And it's honestly, it was such a weird piece of advice, but it just absolutely stuck with me.
Mine's similar. I had a professor from Spain, and he was very animated, and yet his biggest lesson was leaders are cool. It's like everybody's losing their head, everybody's going crazy. To be a leader, you have to be cool in the head. Also, you should be cool, like they're a cool person. No, but staying cool is, I think, if you're not cool, you're not thinking straight, and if you're not thinking straight, you're making poor decisions.
Mine ties into Molly's, but someone, and probably my work mentor and work dad, he told me that there's no shame in not knowing everything. And that's an important thing to learn when you're young. It's okay if you don't know everything, but as we've said many times, you have the skill set to go find that answer. It might be the fact you just might have to go look at your paper that's at your desk and not in the office you're sitting in of, hey, I don't know that answer, but I will get back to you and give you that answer. So there's no shame in not knowing everything, especially when you're young in your career.
So I'm probably not very good at mine, but I try to work on it. Is that making your accomplishments are real, and not that, oh, I did it, so everyone can do it. It's that knowledge and everything that you put behind it. It actually is a big deal, and sharing it. It's not bragging. It's, and not everyone can do what you can do all the time.
We believe a lot in teamwork. There's no I in teamwork. It takes everybody to get it done. And never give up. I really needed to read every day. Never give up. Never give up. Never give up. Never give up. Yeah, and the other one, it sounds a little bit harsh, but in our business works. Second place is the first loser. You only strive for greatness. You only strive to be at the top of the game. And that's the idea. Second place is the first loser. We have it written. So at the end of the day, it's about greatness. It's about being the best at what you do, and that's what you have to strive for. Some days you're going to be short one spot, but at the end of the day, what counts is that every day you wake up and you know that day, nope, that's what we're going for. That's what we're going for. That's what we're going for. And for me to work with 700 people that know that the top is the only thing, what we need to be at the top, it's cool to work with people that have the same mindset and the same vision that is about being the best of the best at what you do. So
That's a really good question. That was a question I was going to end with. But Damon, do we have more time, or anybody else have any other questions? All right. Huh? Well, we'll wrap it up, I think. Thank you, but I think all of these ladies will be here the rest of the weekend, so if you have any other questions, feel free to ask any of us. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions, give any advice. Tell your friends if they have questions. We're open to it as well. But
starting at midnight, no sorry, no apologies.
Yeah,
okay?
no sorry,
Yeah,
no apologies. It
Starting
starts
at
over.
midnight.
The clock starts over.
Yes. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Beyond the Competition, the SAE University Programs podcast. Show notes for this episode can be found at beyondthecompetition.fireside.fm. Remember, stay tuned for updates on your competition's news feed or app, and follow SAE_University Programs on TikTok and Instagram. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you next episode.